He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora, I'm Aaron Smale, and welcome to the Stolen Children of Aotearoa podcast. This story is about a gang whānau who spent their teens in the custody of the state and features Albie, his brothers Rob and Jason, and his former partner April. This is their story from their point of view, a story that they want told. It also rests on years of reporting that I've done on this issue and the 6-year Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse and Care. This podcast was made with the support of New Zealand On Air, Te Mangu Kaha and Whakaata Māori. It contains descriptions of the abuse of children, both physical and sexual, drug use, racism and strong language. So please take care. Part 1. The Brothers. When he was young, Albie Epiri had an idea of what he wanted to be when he grew up.
Fucking policeman. Of all fucking things, a fucking policeman. But as I went through this, ain't no way I was going to be a fucking policeman. But that's what I thought I was going to be when I was a kid. A fucking policeman.
Instead of pulling on a blue uniform, Albie pulled on a blue patch. He joined Mangu Kaha Black Power, one of New Zealand's largest gangs, when he was a young adult. In 1987, the retired New Zealand judge Sir Clinton Roper wrote a ministerial report on violence. In the report, he said, "There is probably no subject in the field of law and order that can provoke more selective and distorted coverage from the media, or more emotive and often ill-informed rhetoric from those in authority than gangs." My name is Aaron Smale, and this is the Stolen Children of Aotearoa. I've worked as a journalist for 25 years, and I've been trying to understand why so many Māori men have ended up in prison and in gangs. Who were they? What was their whakapapa? Not just their genealogy, but their intergenerational story. The people I spoke to told me that the answer had a lot to do with the state-run welfare homes. Shortly after I published my first story on this subject, I was invited to hui of gang leaders in Featherston. When I arrived, there were about 40 or 50 senior gang members. When I spoke to them, I made the point that if you'd gone through the state welfare institutions, the state was your parent. It was part of your whakapapa. The reaction was one of silence, and I wasn't quite sure what this meant. But it did open up a number of conversations. One of those conversations was with Albie. We sat down in a marae car park and talked about his life and his 3 brothers. They all ended up in gangs after spending their teens in state custody. In the 1970s, Albie's parents moved to Dunedin from up north to get their young whānau away from gang influence. In this interview, Albie, with his brothers Rob and Jason, tell me their story.
Mum was from Dargaville and Dad was from Kaikui. Because our family's sort of entrenched with the Black Power up in the North Island. Has been since the early days. Our parents come down this way to be away from that gang stuff. I suppose to have us kids probably have a better life for us, I suppose. Life at home? I think it was a normal family setting, like everybody else. My father worked down at the freezing works down in Matilda. Father was a bit harsh, but whose fathers weren't? Mum was pretty cool. Mum was mum. 4 brothers. My oldest brother is Raymond, then myself, then my twin brother Rob, and then the youngest one is Jason. We're all 2 years apart. We have got a sister somewhere over in England, I heard. I heard she's about 10 years older than us.
But Dunedin wasn't much fun for a Māori kid growing up in the 1970s, when there weren't many brown families in the city.
Back in the day, you could count how many Māori families were in this town on one hand. I was at school one time at the sports thing and I was getting picked on. I had this little, what they call ringworms in my head. And I had to wear a hat to school. And they decided to pick on me and then pull my hat off. Picking on me, calling me names and all that shit. They took off and left me there crying. And then my older brother came along, asked why I was crying. And I says how I got picked on and these fellas were picking on me. And he goes, which fellas? And I pointed out to which ones they were. He proceeded towards them and gave them a fucking hiding. He was always looking after us. I suppose he was a really big influence in my life.
But that influence took a turn for the worse when Raymond got into trouble and was sent to the welfare home at Lookout Point.
Oldest brother was at Mataga Boys. They had a bit of a school of shoplifters at the time, you know, just going around pinching stuff. They all got caught. The oldest brother got pinpointed as the ringleader. He ended up over at Lookout Point Boys Home. My oldest brother ran away, ended up at home, and the staff member come over to take him back to the boys' home. Yeah, well, before they took him back, they gave him a good hiding. And I watched that. And my first thought of that, when I seen that, is, you fucking wait till I get older, mate. I'll get you. I think I started playing up myself, because I just wanted to be with my brother.
Lookout Point was supposed to be a place where wayward kids could get back on track. But in fact, it was rife with a culture of violence. Albie recalls his first day there.
Honestly, I had no understanding of the place. I got there to be with my brother, and he was in Koitere. The first day I was there, I remember the first day, getting shown around the place, shown where your bedroom was. I remember getting woken up by one of the staff. I think it was for tea time or something. I ended up telling him to fuck off, and that didn't end very well at all. Got a bit of a bash for it.
Albie's twin brother Rob followed him into Lookout Point Boys Home, but he says he had no idea what was waiting for him.
But once we got in this place, fucking shit come at us. We had to shine the floors and that, and they used to use this busy bee thing. We used to polish the floors. I was taking too long one day, and one of the staff members just came in, you know, and just said, hurry up and get your job done. And I turned around and I gave it to him. I just told him flat out, get fucked. Tell me what to do. The next minute he was ragdolling me around the dining room. And I mean ragdolling me. Like, I tried to swing at him, but he was too big. And he just ragdolled me around the dining room for about 5 minutes.
With his brothers at Lookout Point, the youngest of the 4 Epites, Jason, was alone.
I was the last one left at home, being the youngest of the family. I was lost because my brothers were gone. Starting to get up to a bit of mischief, and then, you know, trouble started heading my way, and I think I just followed it. I'm not sure if it was the police and Mum that took me up there.
Rob says they quickly learned there was a hierarchy based on violence.
Places like the boys' homes back in the day, they had pecking orders and they had kingpins. You fought your way to the top. And if you were at the top of the chain, well, you ruled the roost. And if you were at the bottom, well, you got shit. A lot of the stuff that was going on in there, the only way that we could rebel when we didn't like what was going on there, we'd just take off. They had a kingpin system. And the staff were well aware of the kingpin. The kingpin was the toughest guy there.
The hierarchy of violence was a pervasive culture throughout the welfare institutions. The staff would regularly use the bigger, older kids to inflict violence on the others as a means of control. These kids were known as kingpins. In a report by the Human Rights Commission in 1982, welfare home staff openly admitted to physically assaulting kids and putting them in solitary confinement, sometimes for weeks and months on end. One staff member quoted in the report said, "It was not unusual for a boy to be cuffed, and I've done this myself. This was the normal way of maintaining discipline. He would have been 15, he was doing something wrong in his cell, perhaps talking or looking out. He would have been warned. As I remember it, the other housemaster and I grabbed the boy. While we were holding him, Mr. X hit him about the face, a number of heavy punches to the face." Tens of thousands of children were taught by the state that violence was normal. At a formative time in their lives, they were shown that violence was how the world operated. They carried those lessons into their adult lives. I went to Lookout Point with the Epiri brothers. It's on the south side of Dunedin and the property is derelict now. But they still remember the places that hold dark memories for them.
But you can see through here, this used to take you right up to the boys' home here. There's a motorway over there that never used to be there. The road used to go straight up here.
I recall getting taken up by the police. Been under their radar for a little couple of years, I think.
Do you remember how old you were?
12.
This place here is the back entrance to the boys' home. Remember the days we used to sweep these footpaths, clean the gutters. We used to sit up in those bushes there and sniff glue. I wonder if we can get up there. Yep. Oh, we're going up for a walk. This is where you used to come to get the strap. When you ran away, you used to come up here and get the strap. Ran your fucking ass. Do you know, I think this was office here. Mr. is like giving you the strap around the ass.
Just a note here. We've chosen to beep out or cut the names of people they name as abusers, where we can't find a conviction, a mention in the Royal Commission, or anything on the official record.
The violence is what got me. How it's dished out. Sometimes it was every weekend. You know, get caught, back to the secure block before they strip you down, give you a hiding and then chuck you in the cell. To me, they were cells back in the day. There's no way of getting out of them. It's just like a prison cell. Actually, it's just like being in the pound. 3 weeks to a month you'd spend in a secure block. Not unless you'd just been a good guy or they thought you'd been a good guy and they let you out early. Most of us didn't get out early, we always stayed in there late. Yeah, this is it here. It's the old secure block. Those are the windows. That's the corner one, that's the middle one, and that's the end one. Is that right? Yep. Out there's a cage outside on that concrete over there. And it had a cage come over the top, and that's where the exercise was out there. Got a few fucking hidings in here.
We were accustomed to violence. It was either perpetrated on us or we perpetrated it on somebody else. So, you know, once it was perpetrated on us, then we started doing it because we think it's the normal thing to do. I think we were just treated like little fucking animals, actually. Excuse my language.
Yeah, some of those things that were happening to us up there were not good things.
It wasn't just violence that was going on at Lookout Point. There were sexual predators on staff.
This is the old ablution. Nothing's changed in here except this. They never used to have cubicle for showers. They were all open. All those fellas who used to like little boys would stand in the shower and fucking poo at us. Just stare at us. There was staff up there that, what we call them, slippery hands. Slippery hands are people that go steal things, but these slippery hands like to play with some of us kids that were there. You like the little fellas? He's one of the main perpetrators. You like the little fellas? And I guess nobody ever talked about it. And there was never ever no narking. Narking wasn't a good thing. It was part of the code. But I guess, you know, some of us were probably too ashamed to say anything back then. Don't even know how I'm fucking saying it now.
While there was a shame and inability to talk to family about what was happening to them, their father was ashamed that they were in these institutions.
I know with my father, he never visited us. It was only our mother. He didn't like it because when you go and dirty the family name, it's not a good thing. I think that's how a lot of those Māori men were back in the day.
By the time Jason ended up following his brothers into Lookout Point, he was alone again. They'd already been moved on to another institution, Kohitere in Levin.
They were gone. They were up in Kohitere by then. You know, I'd been up there visiting them a few times with Mum.
While it was a strange environment at first, Jason quickly found he could get by using his fists. The staff encouraged stronger kids to bully weaker kids and keep them in line. They were called kingpins and helped the staff keep control. It was a system used in many of the homes, and Jason became a kingpin.
This guy got told to come over from the staff to show me around the place. And then he showed me around the place, and then he took me to the place called the Donkey. And he got down there and he could tell straight away that he wasn't going to win the fight. But I smashed him anyway. And from that day to the day I got out of that place, that was what I was. Being Mr. Beat-up guy. That's just part of it. You roll with it or you don't roll with it.
Meanwhile, Albie and Rob had graduated to the next stage of the system, Kohitere Boys Training Centre in Levin. Kohitere was the national welfare institution for boys that were deemed to need further discipline. Kids from around the country who'd been through institutions like Lookout Point in other cities, at Puni in Wellington and Owairaka in Auckland. Kohitere was for older boys. There was also a Hokio Beach school near Levin that was for younger kids. Both had a reputation that travelled. Kohitere was considered by many to be the last stop before Borstal at Waikeria and then adult prison.
What did I know about Kohitere? I heard it was a lot harder than where we were. I was pretty scared when I went up there. I think I might just going on 14. You're looking at 150 up there. What did they call us then? Trainees.
Yeah, me and Albie were in there together. He got out before I did because I arrived there a bit later. The moment you walked in there, you didn't know what you actually walked into. The level just went tenfold from the boys' home. Part of your initiation going into Kohitere was that you got stomped. Half a dozen guys that are old boys, and they just go in with a blanket and just start stomping somebody. You had to learn how to look after yourself pretty quickly in those places. Once you get separated from everything, you start looking for something. Something to connect to, something to belong to. And I think this is how this all come about, just personally for myself.
We were all aware that all these guys all come from another boys' homes from different areas around the country. That's where the gang things start coming in, because all these fellas up there, they're all connected to areas up the North Island and they're juniors. And once you get to those places, you know, it's like Joe, you know, you're either with a crew or you ain't, you're nobody. Raymond went up there and he supported the Black Power when he went up there. So as soon as we got up there, we were Black Powers. That's what he tried to get us away from. He didn't want us to be living in the North Line, Auckland, and then going over to that.
There was one time I ended up the secure block. I think I was up there for 2-3 weeks. And I was up there for kicking one of the other trainees in the head. We got into a bit of an argument, and then I just got up and kicked him in the head. And then I got sent up there for 3 weeks. The secure block was right at the end. With when we were up in Kohitere, it was a little wee block. I think it might have housed about 1, 2, might have been 3, 6, probably 9 or 12 at a time. A usual daily routine would be up first thing in the morning. It used to be PT for an hour. If you couldn't handle that PT, you got a hiding. We used to have to do that three times a day. And the amount of abuse that got perpetrated on us, that was dished out to us was horrendous, actually.
I got discharged on my 15th birthday up there. After I got through there, that's what I aspired to be a gang member.
As for Jason, the youngest brother, he got sent from Lookout Point to Invercargill.
My next step from there was straight to corrective training, Invercargill corrective training. Part of the prison, but it was separated. It was a different wing, because then they're trying to give you military training. You know, or not military, you know, they do all the PT and all the exercises, and, you know, you'd be getting clipped around the ears because you're not keeping up, or, you know, you're running too slow. When I went back there the second time, and knew what it was all about, I just told them all to get fucked. Once I knew the best they're going to do is just lock me up. At least I don't have to go running around and marching and spent most of my time down the pound because I wouldn't do what they would tell me.
The boys were being introduced to a whole lot of jargon and terminology that became a common language. CT was corrective training, PT was physical training, YP was youth prison. But all the terms were just a shorthand for the next stages of the system they were in. There wasn't an obvious way out of that system. All the lessons they'd learned involved violence, and they were good at it. Here's Albie.
When I got out of Koitere and I seen people that hadn't seen violence before, and they see violence, they sit there and freak out. But people like us will sit there, fuck, your money bees ain't get the fucking hiding, because we're used to it. After Koitere was CT. After CT was YP. After YP, you're in the man's jail. So these are the stepping stones. I don't know why they call them stepping stones. Like stepping stones are things for goals. These were our goals. And like ones that I knew from Dunedin, beat them in the CT, YP prison. So you've seen them all through those places. Some of them didn't follow through. Some of them become junkies.
I must have racked up at least 20 assaults by the time I was about 16. I think they range up to about 30 assaults I got. A lot of them were, when I was a lot younger, they were drinking ones too, getting caught in the pubs. But as I got older, the violence got more serious. You know, they just weren't assaults, they were GBHs and things like that. I'll probably say I've done about 25 years all up in the jail system.
When you go to corrections, they've got their own little fucking way in there too, you know? Right down to as soon as you walk into a prison, you're getting stripped down. Same as you go into the boys' home, you're getting stripped down. You know, what is up with that shit? Security? What sort of security do you need to strip down a little kid? But we've gone through all our lives like that. Take clothes off, take clothes off. Right through the boys' homes, right through the jails, and they still do it in the jails. It just reminds you of a fucking perpetrator. Take your clothes off. And you got no choice but to take them off. When are they going to come and take them off you?
While Albie went straight from the boys' homes to prison, Jason tried to stay out of trouble.
Oh, for me, I sort of went quiet. Got me a trade, qualified chef. Yeah, and I had probably a quiet period of maybe 4 or 5 years, but I was still going in and out of courts. But then, I think it was when I was about 21, I ended up doing a jail sentence. All my other brothers had already gone to jail.
What they didn't understand at the time was that they weren't the first generation where the state had intervened and even interfered in their family in ways that were damaging.
And we used to say to Mum, when we used to get out of jail, she used to tell us all this stuff. She didn't go to jail and all this shit. And one day I turned around and said to my mother, "Now, what would you know about jail, Mum?" And she turned around, "A lot more than you, boy." And how would she know? Because she was there. That she went through the jails too. I think after my mother went through those places, she never went back. And she just tried to do the best for us and always told us it wasn't the right place for us to be. Yeah, no, she was a bit mischief back in her day. Went off the end a little bit and ended up going to jail, and that might have had something to do with her losing her kid, our sister. From what I remember Mum telling me is that we had a sister, she was working, this was in her early days. Some people used to look after her during the day when she was at work, and then she come home from work one day and these people had given her away. What I remember is Mum, she was only young. Mum was young and the baby was young. People getting taken away from their families and adopted out, and if they're not adopted out, into the state care places. So we've gone from out-of-state care into corrections. And unfortunately, some of us stay in it for years. I've done a number of years in the prison system.
The transition was seamless. Everything that Albie, Rob and Jason had experienced in the boys' homes had prepared them for prison. the violence, the hierarchy, the mistrust, and the defiance of authority. They weren't the first ones, and there would be many after them, whose pathway into gangs and prison was mapped out by the state institutions like kohitere. For many, wearing a patch was an expression of whānau, a symbol that had the same experiences in the same places. It was also often a collective expression of defiance, a new form of identity formed to replace the identity that had been stripped from them. It was a symbol of their alienation from a society that hadn't bothered to pay attention to what was happening in its name. When I was down in Dunedin, we visited the cemetery where members of Albie's whānau are buried, including his mum, his brother, and his daughter.
This is where our oldest brother lies, also our mother. Our father, he's up in the North Island. He got buried up in the North Island, he got taken up home. I went and stole his cross and brought it down here. Don't think you're allowed to do that, but I don't care. I just wanted my dad to be with my mum and my brother. My daughter's over there. And my mum and my brother can watch her. Nice to have them all here in one spot. We're regulars out here. If we come out for our brother's birthday, and we come out on the day that he passed away, our mum, we come up out here on her birthday, and the day she passed away, we come out on that day too. Same as my girl. We actually turn them into events. Rather than making it a sad day, we turn it into a bit of a celebration. I believe that's why we're still here. We've still got a journey to carry on. And I guess coming out to see our loved ones refocus us. A lot of times we need to be get refocused again. We still struggle along the way.
Since I heard Albie's story, I've heard variations on that story again and again from gang members, and not just from men. In the next episode, we'll hear from Albie's ex-partner, April, and how her childhood in welfare homes led to a lifetime in gangs. Many thanks to April, Albie, Rob and Jason for sharing their stories. This podcast accompanies a feature-length documentary also called The Stolen Children of Aotearoa, which is available on Whakaata Māori at maoriplus.co.nz. I hosted and researched this podcast, and the script was written by myself and Ruth Corver. This podcast was edited by Bridget Lyon, with audio engineering by Phil Burton. It was produced by Ruth Corver for Awa Films, and executive produced by Julian and Bex Arahanga. I'd like to thank the RNZ team of William Ray, Tim Watkin, Tim Burnell, and Yana Tanahu Owen, and acknowledge the originating commissioner, Kay Elmers. This podcast was made with the support of New Zealand On Air, Te Māngai Paho and Whakaata Māori.